experts with me today. We are going to provide tips and tools and resources. I have Brittany Kraft, who is a registered dietitian nutritionist with Ochsner's Eat Fit North Shore, and Dr. Andre Giudice, who is a licensed professional counselor with North Shore Wellness and Counseling. So you'll be hearing from them shortly. I'll turn it over to Jessica for any housekeeping before we get started.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Jessica Hester. I'm the Director of Operations for the Chamber. Just a few things. Our speakers do have PowerPoints today, and after the webinar, you'll be able to share them. I'll be able to send you an email with all the information. There is a question and answer option in this webinar. Everyone is muted just because we do have a lot of people on here, but at the end, we will have a question and answer segment. So go ahead and type your questions in, and then our appropriate panelists will answer them. So we're excited to have you here today. We're hoping to plan some more. After you finish 2, you will automatically get a survey. Please take a couple of minutes and fill that out so we have that information so we can be sure to improve these for the future. Now I'm just going to turn it back over to our first speaker, who happens to be Molly Koenig.
Thank you. Okay, let me see if I can share my screen. Oh. It's saying I can't share mine while yours is being shared.
Oh, then let me, okay.
There we go. All right. Bear with us, guys, 1 second while I pull up my information. There we go. Okay, so again, my name is Molly, and I'm excited to share with you what we can do from home in terms of fitness. Now, I know many of you are stressed right now. We have new routines. You might be working from home and you have children running in and out and you're trying to homeschool or whatever it is. Maybe you are out still working in the field and a first responder, and life's hectic right now. But what we need to realize is that physical fitness isn't just for maintaining healthy body weight and health and wellness. It will actually help us decrease stress. So right now, more than ever, it's vital to spend some time with exercise. So I'm going to give you some tips on how we can incorporate that into our stressful time and our daily routine, and give you the resources that are available to you. But I want you to understand that it is about creating and maintaining a healthy body weight and decreasing stress, but it's also going to increase your energy, improve sleep, increase endorphins, which are those feel-good neurotransmitters in our brain, and it'll improve your mood. So when you are consistently exercising, it increases self-confidence, it helps with the way you feel about yourself, and it truly changes your mood. And that's vital right now. We are all living this crazy, hectic lifestyle, and spending some time for yourself with exercise will truly help you in more ways than one. And where can you start? It doesn't need to be 45 minutes to an hour a day. Most people think that's what they need to do in order to fit that into their routine. You need to start with what you love. So many people ask me, well, what is the best form of exercise? It's what you love, you have fun with, and you'll stay consistent with. If you don't like to run, don't run. Go on a bike ride with your kids. Find a virtual yoga class, and I'll give you those resources. But do something that makes you smile and that you can have fun with. But it's so important to put it on your calendar. We put on our calendar every work meeting that we have. Maybe it's things with your family, cooking a meal or playing a game with your child. Calendar in exercise. And again, it doesn't have to be 45 minutes. It could be increments. 10 minutes first thing in the morning, 5 or 10 minutes right before dinner. That will absolutely change your health. And there's a lot of science behind 15-minute workouts. In fact, there was a study published in the Journal of Medicine and Science in Sports and Exercise. And they took a group of individuals and they found that 15-minute spouts of exercise with just one of those minutes being high intensity was the same benefit of 45 minutes of jogging. So knowing that, hopefully that'll make you realize you have 15 minutes in the day to focus on health and wellness. And those benefits are life-changing. So it can be in increments. 15 minutes, 3 to 5 times a week is truly life-changing. Find an accountability partner. This is huge because I think we all start off with goals and a plan in mind, and we're energized, but then things get in the way. Find accountability partner, whether it's a live streaming class that you're going to meet your friend virtually, whether it's a partner, a friend that wants to touch base with you a few times a week and you discuss what you're doing and maybe you do it virtually together. But find that accountability partner. Maybe it's your spouse, maybe it's your child, and make it fun. Stick with it. Include the family. Our children need to be moving right now. I know that we are doing online classes and we're working virtually. Plan the exercise with your children. Make it a PE class where you go outside for 10 minutes and you're moving. Maybe it's a bike ride. Maybe it's a hike around the backyard. Make it fun and stay consistent and calendar your time. Now let's talk about local fitness facilities that we can support right now and what they're having to offer. So when I talked about accountability, live streaming classes are wonderful for accountability. So 2 options would be Bayou Yoga and Evolve Studio. They do live streaming classes, which means that you are watching the instructor live and you're part of a community. You're all on there at the same time, whether it's 9 a.m., 2 p.m., 7 p.m. There's different times that you can stream in live from the comfort of your home and be held accountable. They also offer on-demand options, which is a library of fitness videos, different options that you can view at any point in time. Bayou Yoga has a kids option, which is wonderful. You can do that with your children, make that a PE class. They also have a 21-day challenge for $21. I don't know about you, but sometimes when I pay for something, it keeps me accountable. I'm going, okay, I spent money on this. I need to show up. I need to do it. And then Evolve Studio also has wellness consulting and nutritional services. Again, great way to keep you accountable. Now they do have their websites, but also be sure to check out Facebook and Instagram, where they have a lot of those options available to you. Other facilities, Stone Creek, Franco's, Body Sculpt Bar. They have a YouTube channel. Pilates Plus, Hotworks, YMCA, Orange Theory, Planet Fitness. These are all local. We'd love to support them right now. They've got a lot of free options where they have their fitness instructors and personal trainers creating videos, and they're making that available on their social media pages and websites. Body Sculpt has a YouTube channel. YMCA has options for seniors, virtual options for seniors. Orange Theory has a free virtual studio. So there are so many options out there. If you would like a personal plan, if you're overwhelmed, please feel free to reach out to me. I can customize a personal plan for you, help you stay accountable, and point you in the right direction of where to go from there. So hopefully that gives you some tips and encouragement. I'd love to turn it over to Brittany now to give us some information on nutrition.
All right, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, do I need to do anything with my video, Jessica, or am I good?
Hang on. I'm working on it now.
Okay. All right, there we go. All right, so hey everybody, I'm glad to be joining everyone this morning. As Molly has said, I'm a registered dietitian with Ochsner's Eat Fit North Shore initiative. So just for those of you who have not heard of that, we're a team of dietitians who work with restaurants primarily, and our goal is to take the guesswork out of healthy eating. So we work with restaurants to highlight some of their healthy dishes. We do nutrition analysis of their menu items for free. It's just a community service that we do through Eat Fit with Ochsner to help give guidance and highlight some of the healthier dishes so that whenever you go out to eat and you see that Eat Fit seal of approval on the menu, you know right away that's a dietitian recommended and approved dish. So now that you have that background, let's dive a little bit into healthy eating at home. Our lives have changed drastically in the past few weeks, so I know many of us find ourselves trying to make sure we're focusing on fueling ourselves well while we're at home. I have to mention our restaurants first, just because this is a very key time that we all need to do our duty to support our restaurants as much as we're able to. Point out some resources for that. The first one is the St. Tammany Eat Takeout and Delivery Options Facebook page. So that is actually a chamber-run page, and they're resharing all of the restaurant posts, having lists of which restaurants remain open during this time. So that's a great resource to use to identify which restaurants are still offering takeout and delivery at the moment. I have the Eat Fit app here as well. We have restaurant updates on that as well. That's free to download, and that's where you can find a lot of our other Eat Fit wellness resources. And then also our Eat Fit North Shore Facebook and Instagram pages. Every Friday we post an update on which of our Eat Fit restaurants, so restaurants which have Eat Fit dishes, are still open, whether they're offering takeout, curbside pickup, or delivery, and which delivery services are the ones to go to get each specific restaurant. So trying to make it as easy as possible for us to serve our restaurants well during this time when they've served us so well over the past years. Okay, so we can dive in a little bit to supporting immune function. I know that's at the top of everyone's mind right now. I do want to preface this by saying our immune systems are very complex, multifaceted systems. So there is no single superfood or single food that we can eat that will prevent getting a specific illness or cure a specific illness. However, fueling our bodies well, fueling our immune systems well, having a balanced overall pattern of eating are ways that we can support our immune system so that it can do what it does best. So ways that we can do that are focusing on plant-based, balanced meals, using that plate method. That's what replaced the food pyramid. It's called the plate method. Having half of our plate be filled with fruits and vegetables, a fourth of the plate being a whole grain, and a fourth of it being lean protein, as well as incorporating healthy fats throughout our diet as well. So doing that, having this balanced meals, balanced snacks are going to provide us with some of these key nutrients that play a role in immune function, which I've listed here, all the way from protein to some of those minerals like iron, selenium, or zinc. The best place to get nutrients, to get these vitamins and minerals, the way our body best absorbs it is from food itself. So that's why having a healthy diet is so important, whether you're taking a multivitamin or not. Another thing that we can do is to stay hydrated. So hydration and making sure we're getting enough fluid in a day are also an important aspect of supporting immune function. A good rule of thumb with what a good goal is for water in a day is half of your body weight in ounces. So if you weigh 150 pounds, shoot for at least 75 ounces of water. If you're 200 pounds, 100 ounces. Another thing we can do is incorporate probiotics. So probiotics are the healthy bacteria. So if we consume things like fermented dairy, which is yogurt or kefir or kimchi or kombucha, all of those things naturally contain probiotics, and that's a way that we can support gut health. And gut health does play a large role in our immune function as well as our mental status. So there's a lot of really interesting research in gut health at the moment. And then lastly, we can manage stress. So I'm sure Andre will speak a little bit more on this topic in a little bit, but on a food standpoint, managing our stress well, focusing on mindful eating are ways that we can support our immune function. So I want to dive a little bit into mindful eating. Mindful eating is just the practice of being present at mealtime, allowing yourself to slow down and to truly savor the food in front of you. Ways that we can do that we can be more thoughtful about the foods that we're fueling our body with are, number one, to step away from the screen. So whether it's a TV screen or your computer screen for work, it's very important to step away, allow yourself that dedicated lunchtime away from work. Try to eat somewhere separate from your workspace. So if you work at a certain desk, go eat at your kitchen table. whenever you're having a meal or a snack. Those are ways that we can be a little bit more mindful in our meal times. Another thing is to be kind to yourself. So this is a stressful time for so many of us, and it's important to know that, you know, one instance of stress eating is not a sign of failure. Having a healthy pattern of eating is one that supports our mental health as well as our physical health. So give yourself a little bit of grace right now. One instance of something that's out of your diet plan is not going to sabotage your whole health goals. That being said, it is important before we eat to stop as much as possible and identify, why am I reaching for something right now? Am I hungry? If yes, go get a snack. Am I scared, or am I annoyed or bored or nervous or anxious? If it's one of those things, what are some other replacement behaviors that we can incorporate? If I'm bored, maybe I should go for a short walk down my block. You know, if I'm feeling anxious, maybe a cup of hot tea will do the trick rather than grabbing a snack that I'm really not hungry for. Other strategies that are tools for mindful eating are to use food journaling or logging. So whether that's writing something down in a notebook, using some food logging apps like MyFitnessPal, all of those are ways to be thoughtful about what we're actually eating by the end of the day. Maybe it was more or less than we anticipated. Using the plate size method. So a good goal is to try to use plates that are less than 9 inches in diameter. And that's so we can have more, you know, thoughtful portion sizes for our first serving. And then after you finish your serving on your smaller plates, wait 10 to 15 minutes. Am I still hungry? If yes, I'll go get second servings. Maybe I'm not hungry. Maybe that was all I needed. And that's a good strategy to help us to identify that. The colors are 5 senses trick. This is fun to do with kids, but I think it's great for adults too, because when's the last time where we looked at our plate and said, how many colors are on my plate today? Or let's stop for a second. Let's really think about the food that I'm eating. How does it taste? What are all the flavors that I notice? What does it smell like? What's the texture? How does it make me feel? All those are good things to be a little bit more mindful about as we consume food during this time. And then lastly, using grocery lists, recipes, or having a meal plan blueprint are all ways that I know we've all heard before, but those are good ways to keep our strategy set for which foods we'll be eating in a day. So that's a good segue into other strategies for making sure we're choosing the most nutritious items while we're all eating and being at home right now. So one, this goes along for those of us who are working from home. Don't skip meals. It can be a temptation to just keep working on through lunch. Maybe we'll get to finish fast or we'll get finished with something, but we'll truly be more efficient in our work if we allow ourselves those small breaks, time to go sit and eat your lunch. Planning meals and snacks ahead of time. So having a plan in mind that I eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Maybe I have an afternoon snack every day because that's something that I have a schedule set for. If you have meals and snacks, especially snacks prepped ahead of time, that'll be a good strategy for making sure you're grabbing for the things you intended to grab for. So if you had planned to have Greek yogurt and maybe sliced fruit for a snack, having the fruit sliced ahead of time is going to be a good strategy instead of maybe grabbing something that would have been easier, like a bag of chips. So doing that extra prep ahead of time will be ways to make sure you're staying on goal for that. I've included some sample snack ideas. These are very simple, but the trend that you'll notice with them is for every snack, we want to make sure we're incorporating some source of protein along with the healthy carbs so that we're feeling full for a long time. It's going to be much more satiating if we have fiber and protein incorporated. So things like a protein-rich Greek yogurt with berries, an apple with a protein-rich peanut butter, beanito chips. If you haven't tried them, they're really good. They're made with beans, and a salsa would all be good ideas for snacks. Another idea is to remove temptations if you need to. So if there were certain items that you never kept in your house before this point, but now you find you're purchasing them more, that might be something that we can remove from our grocery list next trip if that's something that's causing unneeded temptation for you. And then, as I said before, being kind to ourselves, give yourself a little bit of grace to know that there's room for many different types of food during this time. We just want to focus on what 90% of the time, what does the pattern of our diet look like? Are we focusing on fruits, vegetables, and lean proteins and whole grains. So grocery shopping tips, things that we can do to make sure we're choosing healthy items in the grocery store. One, to stick to your list. That's just a good way to avoid impulse buying. Finding core ingredients to use in multiple recipes. So I say to plan your meals ahead of time. That's a great strategy. Some people will choose to look up recipes ahead of time and know the exact specific ingredients they need. Others, maybe if you cook more often, you'll just know which core ingredients you need to purchase so that you can create meals with that. Maybe you purchase 5 different veggies because you know you're going to be cooking meals 5 times this week, and 5 different lean proteins, and those are the things you'll use to create a meal, and things you can multi-purpose. Include a variety of forms. So if we're trying to shop every 2 weeks or so during this period, having that variety of fresh produce down to frozen, down to canned. So we can start with the fresh. When we're out of those, we have other good and nutritious options that are stocked in our pantry to be able to still produce nutritious meals. Next, don't shop or order grocery pickup on an empty stomach. That's just another one that we've heard, I'm sure, many times, being that you tend to purchase things that you don't really need when you're shopping on an empty stomach, even on the computer. Go easy on the frozen dinners. That can be a temptation right now, just to purchase many frozen dinners. However, they do tend to be higher in things like sodium, calories, and saturated fats. So as much as we can, trying to stay away from the pre-made frozen dinners. And then if we are purchasing them, choosing ones without as much added salt or sauces, especially like frozen veggies and things. So if we're purchasing a frozen bag of broccoli, I would like that ingredients list to just list broccoli. I don't need broccoli in a cheese sauce. I can season it myself. And those are good ways that we can control what we're adding to our food. And then limiting the purchases of foods that would be those temptation foods like chips, sodas, cookies, or ice cream during this time. Cook enough for leftovers. So leftovers are a great time and money saver. Whether you like to cook several times a week, or some people prefer to cook everything on a Sunday and have everything ready to go. Those are great ways to have healthy meals ready to go for you throughout the week. And then as much as possible, freezing it in single serving portions, or maybe if you have a family of 4, freeze it in 4 servings at a time so that it's easier to defrost and you're more likely to not be wasteful with it. All right, and so finally I wanted to provide some pantry staples for you guys. I think it is important to know that balance between stocking up right now and stockpiling. So we do have to be kind to each other in that aspect. And I won't read all this to you, but just to kind of provide an overview, we want to purchase those staples that will keep for a long time, but also choose the more nutritious versions of those. So beans, as much as possible. We can do dried or canned, but we want it to be low sodium. Same thing with our fresh, frozen, canned fruits and vegetables. If we're getting canned, we want to look for the low sodium. If we're purchasing canned fruit, we can get it canned in water or juice instead of in the heavy syrup. This is a great opportunity to try more whole grains. So there's so many out there that I haven't even tried, but ways to incorporate things like quinoa, barley, oats, whole grain bread or tortillas. When we're purchasing bread or tortillas, we want to make sure that we look at the ingredients label. And if we see things like enriched wheat flour, that's a good indicator to me that if it had to be enriched, that it's not a whole grain. They've removed some of the nutrients and had to enrich it by adding some of them back. So when you're looking for grain products, you want to see whole wheat flour as the first and only grain ingredient if possible. Soy or nut milk. We want to make sure we're getting unsweetened during this time. Cow's milk, if you can, organic milk tends to have a later expiration date. So that's a good thing to be looking for right now. It does tend to last a little bit longer. And then having some of those staples like sauces, low sodium, pasta sauce, salt-free broths are going to be some of those key ingredients that we can use in multiple recipes. Nuts make an excellent snack, as well as nut butters. And then making sure we're including some of those flavorings that add, flavor boost to some of our meals. So there's ways to do it that are very nutritious, using dried herbs and spices, vinegars, citrus, Greek yogurt, and then those veggies like artichoke hearts, capers, or roasted red peppers are all ways that we can add flavor, but also add nutrition at the same time. So really cool, versatile ingredients. I also wanted to mention that we do have shopping guides on the Eat Fit app. So the app is free to download. It's Eat Space Fit on the Google Play Store or the App Store, and it's the little orange Oshner Eat Fit symbol. They are brand-specific shopping guides that'll walk you through the grocery store and which brands we would recommend as the most nutritious options that you can purchase. And that's all I had for you guys. I'll look for the Q&A if you guys have any further questions. But thanks so much for having me. And as always, Oshner Eat Fit is here to be a resource for you. So please feel free to reach out if you guys have any questions.
Okay, let me get my slideshow started. Okay, can you guys see this?
No, not yet, Andre.
Let's see, let me try again. Hang on one second. All right, now it looks like it's going to go through. Okay, better?
There it is, yes.
Perfect. Okay. So welcome everybody. I'm Dr. Andre Judiz, North Shore Counseling and Wellness. We are a large outpatient psychology practice in Covington. And so I wanted to speak to you guys today about self-care in terms of mental health and some of the stressors that people are experiencing with all of this stuff that's going on. Some of the stuff that I'm actually going to talk about is going to nicely overlap with the previous two presentations. So I'm really excited about the way this is going to gel together. Let's see. I wanted to start with some common stressors that people are experiencing right now. Obviously, the biggest one is the stress that comes from unknown circumstances and outcomes. So unlike an event like a hurricane that we're more accustomed to, this is a very ambiguous and nebulous situation. And the thing that is the threat is really unseen. You can't see it. You can't watch its progress through the TV, like a hurricane can't, like you can see a hurricane through the Gulf. And we don't really know where it is, and we don't really know if it's going to affect us or not. So that can be somewhat stressful for people. A lot of people are talking about having more anxiety. And one of the things that makes anxiety worse is by feeding into it, which we'll talk about more. So the more that we watch news about coronavirus and get on social media and engage in the very opinionated posts on social media about things that people are doing or things that are happening, that increases our anxiety. And then there's the family dynamic issue. So a lot of people are at home full time with their spouses and their kids, and we aren't normally doing that. Normally we have 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, where everyone in the family is doing their own separate thing for the day. So being at home and being in close quarters is definitely a dynamic that can be stressful, no matter how good your relationship is, no matter how much you love the people in your family. And everyone can be a little more needy. You know, you're more aware of their habits and what they want from you, and it can be trying. Parenting can be challenging because, of course, now parents are trying to maybe school their children, keep their children challenged, and also parent them without the ability to send them off to the park or send them off to play basketball or send them off to the gym. Another source of stress right now is people's concerns about jobs, finances, again, the long-term impact of something that we can't see or define very well. And then another source of stress is the things that we think in our head, the things that we do to ourselves that I'll get into. So I want to talk a little bit about family dynamics first. Proximity is going to magnify small issues and big issues, and that's normal. And again, that doesn't matter. That's independent of how good your relationship already was to begin with. Of course, if your relationships had some trouble spots to begin with, that's also going to be magnified, and that makes another level of challenge. So I included some tips here for people. The first one is that if you feel guilt or think badly of yourself for being aggravated by your family, take a moment to step back and think about what you're needing right now in the situation. So instead of thinking about how much your husband or your wife or your child is aggravating you, or how they do that thing over and over and over and they won't listen, instead turn your thoughts to what do I need? Like in this situation, what is my aggravation telling me? If something were different, what would be different for me not to be aggravated about what I need? So maybe I need a few minutes outside the house. Maybe we need a better plan for chores. So shifting it from thinking about just being aggravated or wanting to get away from these people to thinking about how do I meet my needs in this situation or our needs in this situation. That'll change the tenor of the whole thought process and give you some options for things to do that can produce a different outcome next time. Another thing is to be kind to yourself as well as your family. Recognize that everybody has a limit. We all have a limit with our patients. And what's really important is to pay attention to how you know you're getting close to your own limit. And some people don't even know that they have a limit. Some people think they shouldn't have a patient's limit. So starting to pay attention to what are my physical sensations, what are the thoughts that I have as I start to get to my own limit. And as we start to pay attention to that, we can notice better and better when we get small signs that we're starting to get to that place. And we want to give ourselves a break, a physical break. We want to go outside or go into a different room and listen to some music, or read a book, or something that helps you kind of shift out of that interpersonal dynamic before you get to the place that your limit is. So if you know, hey, when I get to, on a scale of 1 to 10, if I'm at a 7, 7's my breaking point, then at 5, when I get to a 5 of aggravation or a 5 of I'm starting to get a headache, then I need to think seriously about taking 15 minutes and figuring out what I need from me in the moment, so that I don't turn my frustration on the other people and maybe make something worse. And so that I can think about taking care of myself. There's some good check-in family practices that I like. One of them is called What Are We Doing Well? So this is literally maybe sitting down with your spouse, especially, or significant other, and having a short conversation and saying, each person taking a turn and saying, okay, this is what I think I'm doing well right now. I'm proud of the fact that I'm doing this particular thing well in our relationship or in our home. Then the next part is, I think you're doing something well. This is what I think you're doing well. I recognize that and I appreciate that. And then the third thing is what I need more of. So what I need more of is a nice way of reinforcing maybe the thing that your spouse is doing and you just want more of that. Or it might be a way of communicating to that person, I need something that I'm not getting from you right now, without phrasing it in the negative sense, like, hey, you're not helping me here and you need to start helping. Instead, it can be, I need more time with you in the kitchen at night to do the cooking. I really enjoy that. So the way that we phrase that really changes how it's received and can be make or break in terms of how the other person engages with you. So what I think I'm doing well, what I think you're doing well, and what I need more of is a very positively based way of communicating that creates a lot more engagement from the person that you're trying to work with. The other one I like is what I have to give. So this one is more about being able to communicate. You know, I'm at 100% right now and doing fabulous, and I got this family right now. You can take a break, or I'm depleted. Don't ask me for anything. Keep the kids away because I'm just gonna be aggravated and I might snap. So this is on a scale of 0 to 100, right? I either have 0% if I'm depleted, or I have 100% if I am at my best. So again, you can tell your significant other, and you can even do this with your kids sometimes too. You can tell your significant other, okay, I'm at 75%. And then the other person can say, okay, well, I'm at 75%. So you both know that, you know, there's a little bit of stress there, but I have a good bit to give to support you, to support the family. We can really work together here. But there might be a situation when you're at 80% and your spouse is at 20%. Well, that's a different story. You really have to have a conversation then about, okay, what do you need me to step up with right now because I do have more to give, and how can I help you? So the other person is able to communicate with just a number. Look, I don't have much that I'm working with right now. I'm stressed. I've got too much on my mind, and I'm not going to be very helpful emotionally or maybe even logistically or physically in the house today. So that's a really good check-in. If neither person, if each person's number doesn't add up to 100%, then you really have to stop and take notice, because it's much harder then for someone to fill in this give and take process. So that's more of a conversation. Okay, let's just figure out how to get through the most important things today. Let's prioritize what we need to do today. What do we need to tackle? How do we help each other do this? And realize that maybe that's not the day that you're going to reflect upon and go, wow, we had such a close emotional day. Neither of you have too much to give. So it's more of a matter of just getting what you got to get done and moving on to the next day. Okay. Parenting tips. You know, if your kids have questions about what's going on or when's school going to start, or, you know, more sort of existential questions about life and death and sickness and all these sorts of things, just realize that you don't have to have all the answers. It doesn't mean that you're not a good parent if you don't know the right thing to say. It's okay to say, I don't know, or, you know, I'm just as confused as you are, but we'll figure it out together, or anything like that. So take the pressure off of having to know. A very important aspect is structure. So as adults, we need structure, and kids most certainly need structure, because normally at this time their day would be very structured. They would be going to school, they might be going to after school activities, and most of their day is extremely scheduled. They'll come home, they have homework, they live on a schedule. And now we're in a situation where they don't have to have a schedule. So, and very abruptly for a long time. So having a structure for your kids and yourself is very, very important. So you still want them to have a regular wake-up time. You want them to have a regular bedtime. You want them to have a regular time where they're eating meals and hopefully able to get some exercise somehow, and doing something to challenge their brain. So, you know, still have limitations on screen time. All those things are still in play. And it's real important to make sure that structure is laid out for everybody in the house. And then remember, we're going to get into some, you know, your own coping skills later, but alone time is very important for every adult and child. And to be present and as a parent, and to be attentive as a parent, you have to take time away for yourself. It's like gasoline in a car. And if you expect to get from here to Las Vegas on one tank of gas, you're not going to make it. You have to stop and fill up on a regular basis. And this is the same thing on emotionally and even physically, for being present to your kids and being a good parent to your kids during this time. So making sure that you take time for yourself and do some of the other self-care things we talked about is going to be critical in terms of your effectiveness as a parent. Okay, so a lot of the rest of what I'm going to talk about is going to be about anxiety and coping with anxiety and other moods that we have during this time. because most people are very aware of their anxiety right now. And there's a few basics I just want to talk about. As humans, through evolution, our survival has depended on us being preconditioned to look for the threat or the problem. And, you know, as cave people, if we did, or tribal people, if we did not constantly scan for the threat, our tribe, our community, our family could get wiped out very easily by another tribe or by a large animal or by poisonous berries. So it was very important for us to learn how to scan for the problem. And so our minds have been hardwired to use certain neural pathways that help us find problems. And that's as true today as it was thousands of years ago. The problem is we don't have those big threats anymore. We don't have those, woolly mammoths or scary tigers chasing us. We have things like finances and, you know, relationship problems and career problems and coronavirus, which in some ways is sort of like a big woolly mammoth chasing us right now. So it's easy for us to get even more wrapped up in our anxiety about these threats that we have in our modern day life. We unconsciously feed the anxiety by paying attention to it. The more we pay attention to it, the more we empower it, which I think runs counter to what our natural instinct is. We think if we pay attention to it and we try to control it, we can make it better. That just makes it worse. And of course, as I said earlier, we have constant input of reasons to be anxious when we watch the news and when we delve into the parts of social media that are focused on our current situation. Another thing to realize is that whatever we visualize is real to our brains. And this is a critical trick of successful people everywhere, successful business people, successful salespeople, professional athletes. Visualization is extremely important to performance. And that's because our brain does not know the difference between what you physically experience in real life and a picture that you show it in your head. On a biochemical and a neurotransmitter level, it does not know the difference. So the more that you spend time visualizing a problem or things that you're anxious about or a negative outcome, the more that your body thinks that that's happening. And it'll release the chemicals, the stress hormones that go along with trying to protect you. That's really bad for your mental health, and that's really bad long-term for your physical health. So we'll talk in a minute about how visualization needs to be done for the opposite reason, which is to really build up your brain and to help yourself buffer against stress and anxiety. Again, the more we think about anxiety, the more we feed it, the more it grows. And then there's this little acronym for the word fear, which I like, which is false expectations appearing real. And that's really what fear is. We think something's going to happen, and when we become fearful about it, it feels real to us, and our body responds as if it's happening in that moment. I put down some example of harmful thoughts that we can have that really erode at our mental health. So a few examples: I should not feel this way. Other people have it way worse. So if you're stressed about what's going on or some financial impact or worried about your health right now, and you say, but I shouldn't worry about this because all those people have died, or my friend's husband's sister is in ICU. That's true, but that doesn't mean that you don't get to have your own concerns or want a better outcome for yourself. Other harmful thoughts like this is never going to end, this has been going on forever, or I or we, my family, my kids, we're not going to be okay if something bad happens. So one thing to remember is that anticipation is always worse than our experience of reality. If you think back to anything that's happened to you in your life that was that you would consider bad or something you didn't want to happen. And if you could have anticipated that, you would have had a certain level of fear. But as you look back on what happened and you went through it and you're on the other side, you realize the actual experience of it was more manageable than what your anticipation would have told you. So that's a critical thing to keep in mind when we're trying to talk ourselves through not letting anxiety rule our lives. So I suggest when you find some of these thoughts, you want to reframe them to be a little more realistic. This doesn't mean being Pollyanna and overly positive and making things up to make yourself feel good. It just means being realistic. So some realistic twists on what I put at the top of this slide are, okay, I'm tired of this, but one day we'll be back to normal. And it's okay to be tired of this while it's going on. Another one is, okay, if something that I'm worried about happens, something bad happens to me or my family, I'll figure out what to do. We always have figured out what to do. We've made it this far in life. We've dealt with every problem, and we'll figure it out. And we don't have to know the solution now. We can find it along the way when we're in the problem, if it happens. Okay, so I have listed here some ways to cope with anxiety. One critical factor is everybody has anxiety. It's wired into us, like I said before. It's certainly worsened right now. The problem isn't that we have it. We don't have to get rid of it. The problem that we have is how we respond to it when we feel it. So my question is, do we react and interact with it? Or do we redirect our minds and focus on something that is more healthy for us, like the present moment? So it's a matter of where we put our attention when we have the anxiety. And anxiety is worrying about, not the time that we're in. It's worrying about the past, it's worrying about the future. But when we can get our minds centered in a mindful way on where we are in this moment, then we actually don't experience anxiety. It's only when our thoughts leave the place where our body is. So I always like to say, if you want to practice mindfulness, which is very important for helping with anxiety, then it's a practice of making sure that your mind and your thoughts are in the same exact moment and space that your body is. So I think, Brittany was alluding to some of this in her part as well. We have to train our mind and our brain just like you have to train any other muscle. The more we practice it, the better we get, the more second nature it becomes. It allows us to build pathways in our brains called neural pathways, neuronal connections that our brain will default to more and more and more if we use it more. It's like a highway. The more we use an information superhighway, the stronger it becomes in our head. So one great way to practice mindfulness is to just use our 5 senses to pay attention to the present moment. So you can do this if you're washing the dishes or folding the laundry. Use your 5 senses. What do you feel as you fold the laundry? What do the clothes feel like? What do you hear? What do you see? What do you smell? What do you taste? Go through that list over and over and just bring your mind to that question and let yourself answer the question. And if you practice that, you'll notice that everything else sort of fades away. And it's just you and the clothes and the folding. And it's such a simple practice. But if you do that for a few minutes, you start to train your brain and your mind that it's okay just to be present. And there's a great peace that comes from that. Another technique that's used in mindfulness a lot is using your breath. There's a great breathing technique that you can look up on Google. If you type in 4-7-8 breathing, there's all sorts of stuff on it, and it's just a way of counting your breath of each inhalation and exhalation, and it just lets us focus on something that's always with us no matter what we're doing. We're always breathing, so you can just use your breath to help center yourself with some mindfulness. Brittany talked about mindful eating. Another great time to practice mindfulness. Tasting your food, counting how many times you chew, feeling the texture of the food as you chew. There's so many ways to use our everyday activities, whether it's walking, any chores that you do to help yourself bring mindfulness to your experience and reduce your anxiety. There's also some apps. Headspace is an app. Insight Timer is another phone app. These offer guided meditations and mindfulness exercises. Some are even actually done or programmed just for the coronavirus right now. So coping with anxiety during coronavirus. And these meditations don't have to be 30 minutes. People think, oh, I have to meditate 30 minutes or practice mindfulness for such a long time and my mind can't wander and I have to be perfect. It's just about practicing bringing your mind to the present moment. And it could be for 3 minutes. It could be for 2 minutes. Just like with the exercise that we talked about earlier, every little bit that you do helps to change the response in your body. And that's what we're looking for. And the more often you do it, the better those neural pathways become, stronger they become, and the more that this becomes a second nature way of coping with stress. Some other coping skills I want to talk about. Again, a big one, you have to create time for yourself every day. And if you don't get it during the day because of the hecticness of having kids in the house or noise levels, then get up 10 minutes earlier, get up 15 minutes earlier and just have some coffee or tea or whatever the morning routine is, just with some extra quiet time in the morning. Make sure you're on a schedule. Again, structure helps with anxiety. It lets you know what to expect, keeps you in a rhythm. That's all part of helping us cope with anxiety. I think natural light is so important. Go outside, get in the sun a little bit, or at least get in some natural light. Let natural light come into your house. It's very important for our brain neurochemicals associated with mood. Practicing positive visualizations. So again, maybe in some of your quiet time or in maybe a little meditative time, visualize something that is a positive thing, something that you want to see yourself do better. Maybe it might just be visualizing yourself having a different response to your children if you're losing your patience with them. Visualize yourself doing anything that feels more positive to you. Again, that's all that is data input. Your brain's like a computer, and it's data input into that computer, telling your brain and your body, oh, something positive's happening. This is good. And that translates all the way through to your physical health and your mental health. And it buffers you against stress, it buffers you against depression, and it makes you better able to handle interpersonal stressors or other stressors. 2 practices I want to suggest as well. There's something called one positive thing practice, and this is the practice of finding something positive in a moment. It could be that you're outside and you see a beautiful flower, or the birds are singing, or somebody said something funny, or you just ate something that you thought was really tasty. And use all of your 5 senses to experience that. So it's kind of like you hit the pause button on life and you go, wow, that flower is beautiful. I'm going to take a second and just notice that. And use your 5 senses. Just sort of, obviously it's going to involve sight, but notice what you're hearing as you're looking at it. Notice what, the ground feels like below your feet as you're seeing that flower. And then notice internally where your awareness that you think that's pretty hits you. Sometimes people feel that in their heart. Sometimes they feel that in their gut. Sometimes they feel that in their head. Notice that sensation. And then as you breathe in and out for a few breaths, try to make that sensation physically spread in your body. Try to imagine that it's like a balloon that as you breathe in, it just grows and grows and grows. So you're actually growing the sensation that goes with a positive awareness. This again supports your brain with positive input. It helps your body release the neurochemicals that are associated with positive awareness, that are associated with buffering you from stress and other mood issues. And it's like a shot of a vitamin that's like, wow, I feel better, I feel refreshed. It's amazing how well that simple awareness can can change the tact of your mind in that moment and in the moments after that. Another one that I like is a night journal exercise where before you go to bed, last thing you do is write down just some bullet points, no sentences, nothing complicated, just a few words that represent positive things that you were aware of that day. And a positive thing is something that literally is not a negative thing. So even if it's a neutral thing, it's a positive thing. If you weren't feeling great in the morning mentally and you were a little depressed and you got out of bed and got on with your day, that's a positive thing. So you write that down. I got up, I did my day. I was patient with one of my kids in this moment, or I took 2 minutes away from myself from everything just to take time for myself, or I got a little exercise in, or whatever. Write it down. And then what you do is you put that piece of paper by your bed, and the first thing you do in the morning, right when that moment when you're waking up and trying to figure out what day is it, what am I supposed to do today, in that moment, before you like look at a phone or put your feet on the ground, pick that up and read that list. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to buy into it. Just read the list. Again, your brain's like a computer. It's data in. You're giving your brain this data. You're writing it, helps to encode the data, and you reading it helps to encode the data. And then that night, add to the bottom of the list. So you keep the list grows with every day that you do this. And then the next morning, you read the whole list all the way through. And that has such a significant impact on changing your brain's ability to have positive experiences. So, and to recognize them and to buffer against the effects of stress. I have here on the slide some mindfulness resources. There's many resources out there. These are just a few that I grabbed that I think explained mindfulness pretty well, and give some small activities or exercises to practice. So I definitely recommend that you check these out. There's a lot of good information. At the bottom, I put two names, Jack Kornfield and Tara Brock. They're both psychologists who have done extensive research in meditation and mindfulness and have tons of resources. They have websites, they have books. It's way too much for me to put on here, but if you want to look into some of the leading people in this area that you might be able to find some other things that you're interested in, look up those names. Exercise and diet. So these have already really been touched on, but I just want to emphasize again the importance of exercise and the food that we take in on mitigating the negative effects of stress and helping us really with our mood. So there's so much research about exercise, and exercise doesn't have to be, like we said earlier, 45 minutes or an hour of cardio. There's research that shows if you just go out and take a leisurely walk for 30 minutes, it can work as well as an antidepressant. That's pretty powerful. Of course, with more intensity of an exercise, you're going to get more of an endorphin release, which are those feel-good chemicals. And then the connection between the brain and gut is very important. There's so much research about how the food that we eat has a negative impact on our gut microbiome, which is the bacteria in our gut. And that directly translates back to our brain, affects our brain function, affects our mood, and can affect our mental health. Foods that cause inflammation in the gut can have been shown to lead to issues like depression and Alzheimer's disease. So, and then mood can be impacted by, food additives, inflammatory foods. It's different for everybody, but some things to watch out for is dairy and gluten and food dyes and sometimes corn. Sugary foods are very inflammatory. So paying attention to the quality of the food that you put in your body not only affects your physical health, but affects your mental health, your mood, and how well your brain actually functions. A lot of people with brain fog, memory problems, that can be related to what you're eating. I want to talk really quickly about teletherapy. So obviously with these stay-at-home orders and people self-quarantining, it's hard to get to resources that can help you with mental health issues. So the insurance companies have been great about supporting all forms of teletherapy, and pretty much everybody practicing mental health, as with most other doctors' offices right now, is doing teletherapy. So we can do it through HIPAA compliant video platforms. We can do it through phone sessions. We can treat most issues over these two platforms that we would in the office. We can handle medications for mental health issues as well. My office, North Shore Counseling and Wellness, offers teletherapy, but I think pretty much everybody out there right now is doing it. So I have some resources here. Yeah. So if you don't have a therapist and you're looking for someone to speak to, or you're looking for someone for medication management, and the best resource I would say to find somebody is to go to a website called Psychology Today, and it shows most of the practitioners in our area are listed there. You can read about them. You can read about their approaches to therapy, what services they offer, what insurances they take. Also, for more mental illness-based issues, I want to refer people to NAMI. We have a NAMI office here in St. Tammany, and they do a lot of services for people at low cost or no cost. I think that's all I have for my presentation.
Jessica, you're muted.
Okay, that's better. All right, now we have some time for question and answer. If you look on your Zoom tab, there is a little question and answer tab at the bottom. If you have anything that you want to ask to our panelists, please go ahead and type them in and let us know. While we're waiting to see if any questions come in, I just want to thank everybody for participating today, especially our 3 panelists who gave up their time to help everyone learn more about how to cope with this, because we've all been stuck in the house working on everything. I know I personally have been doing more work from home than I do in the office, and it's hard to step away from it. And I want to thank them all for sharing all that type of stuff. Okay, someone's asking if the presentation be available. The answer is yes. This presentation was recorded. I'm going to send an email out to everyone. It'll contain the PowerPoint presentations in addition to the recording of this. And I'll also include everyone's contact information in case you want to reach out to any of our panelists. It takes a little bit of time for that to convert and everything, but you should have it by the end of the day today. All right, so Jillian Boudreau says, this is awesome. Thank you to all 3 of our presenters.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Do any of our presenters, do any of you have anything you want to say right now at the end?
I'll just kind of close with thank you all again for your time, and thank you, Brittany and Dr. Dugis, for hopping on and giving us your expert advice and tips. Really appreciate that. I know that y'all are busy right now with your careers, so we appreciate your time. And please feel free to reach out to any of us if we could further assist you with staying healthy while at home.
Okay, so it looks like we don't have any more questions coming in. Y'all all did such a great job. I think that you covered everything so well that really it was so informative. Like I said, by the end of the day today, you'll receive an email from me. At the end of this, please be sure to take the survey too that should pop up. We're looking for other topics. We're looking to keep these going while everyone's stuck and trying to find things that are useful to everyone. So thank you again. Thank you, Molly, Brittany, and Andre. We appreciate your time and hope everyone has a great day. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, y'all. Thanks.